So hi there and welcome back. So I'm back again with another video which is going to be really interesting, and this again the entire video is going to be about Dart programming language. So yeah, if you want to excel in a mobile development career with Flutter, this course will first teach you how to perform things in Dart. What is a Dart language? Yeah, it's been developed by Google, but how do you write Dart? How do you perform the basic things? The entire foundation will be created by me. I'm Siddhartha Verma. We'll be starting this course. Just stay tuned. Just a reminder, we all do really lot of hard work, extracting time, some extra time in order to build something like this. So please consider subscribing to the video and please like the video, share it among all the Flutter or mobile app developers. Okay, sure. So let's get started. So first of all, if you want to excel in this Dart, all you need to do is you need to grab a laptop. You can code along with me. You need to grab the laptop and then just fire up any of the browser which you want. So in here I'm grabbing such things, and now you need to do install Dart SDK. So here you can see that on this web page I am getting this get the Dart SDK. Now, in order to get the Dart SDK, because majority of my audience is from Windows platform, so I will be demonstrating the entire thing on a Windows platform. If you want the same demonstration on a Mac OS, on a Linux, do mention in the comment section below, and if I get a good amount of comments in order to make the entire video for some other platforms, I will surely get that thing done for you guys. So just keep motivated, be motivated, and just focus on your career and just start learning. So if we want to get this Dart installation SDK, I will be choosing an OS. For me it's Windows 11, so I will be going for 11. So if you do not have any Windows, you can install the Windows over here, but for me I have all the things. So what I will do, I will now go for these options. Choose an installation option. To install and update the Dart SDK from the stable channel, choose one of the following options. It's up to you how you want to do it. If you prefer Choco is nothing but, those who don't know, for PowerShell we have Chocolately. And if you prefer using Chocolately, you can also use this package manager, where you can manage all the packages whatever you want to download. That's a great package. I use it personally, but still I want to show you the more manual way of doing this thing. So this is installed Chocolately. Okay, I will go for use a package manager. Recommended use a Dart Docker image, download from the SDK archive, install Flutter, build the SDK from source. So there are so many different channels from where you can use this thing. Now, once you are on this page, what you have to choose, either you can do it via, let me just go back, either you can do it via a package manager, which I showed you recently, the chocolatey thing, or you can go with the Docker image. But right now I don't think that many of the viewers will be coming from a Docker background, so hence I will be going for download from the SDK archive. So if you choose this option archive, then you can choose your operating system and the version. And for this, because this is going to be 2024 latest course, that's why I'm using the latest stable version, which is 3.3.4. I won't be choosing any developer version or the beta version or the main channel versions, because right now I will be concentrating on the stable version, so that whatever features, whatever syntax I will be writing in this course is similar for you guys as well. So in here now you need to check like which exact version you want to download. Here we have a 64-bit architecture, we have a 32-bit architecture, and we have the ARMed 64-bit architecture. For now I will be using the x64-bit version, and I will click on this Dart download. So as soon as I get this file, if you click on the show more, if you go to your my files and you go to downloads, let me just go quickly to the downloads, you can see that I have something in here. Also, if you click on Dart SDK, in here you will get to download this zip file. So this zip file, as I can see, it's somewhere around 213 MB. So let this thing download really quick. Now, once you have the file downloaded, let me just show you in here really quick. This file, let me just go like this and do a detail option. And now this is my latest file which I have downloaded in here. This one, Dart. Now what I will do is I will extract this file. So this one, I will use the WinRAR option to extract, and I will extract to 64 thing, and it will be done really quick. And once this is extracted, I can use this file. So in order to use this files, I need you to use this folder. Just cut this folder, go to your C drive, and in here just try to paste this Dart SDK. And in here, if you click or if you write CMD, okay, if you write CMD in here, and now if you try to do Dart, so you can see here that it's not recognized. Now, in order to get recognized, please follow along, like whatever I'm doing, please follow along, that then only you will be able to use Dart from anywhere in the Windows. Now, if you see in here, we have this bin folder. Okay, and in this bin folder, if I zoom in a bit, you can see that let me just quickly do a refresh. You can see that this is the .exe. So what I can do is cd to bin folder like this, and if I now run Dart, you can see that Dart is being recognized by my system. But that's really tricky. Like every time you cannot visit this directory and then again and again write Dart and do something like this. It's really too specific. In order to fix this problem, what I will do, I will enter this part to my environment variables, and that will pretty much make sure that whenever I type Dart, it will grab this path from my environment variables. So let's quickly grab this path and go to our environment variables like this. I will go to the environment variables, and when I go to this environment variable, you need to go into system variables, and in the system variables, go to this path, and in here you can just now write a new entry, hit OK, and now you can run Dart anywhere from anywhere in the app. So if I close everything and if I just open PowerShell, actually I like PowerShell, right? So in the PowerShell, you can do Dart, and now this is accessible from anywhere. So till this point, if you have any doubts, just leave them in the comment section below, and we shall continue with running Dart to our system, right? So please do this, and also I can verify you the version. In order to check the version, you need to write Dart -- version, and if I click on version, my Dart version is 3.3.4, which is the stable version, and you also get the timeline, like when it was released. It was in April 16, like it is just around 1 or 2 weeks before. So that's really good. And it's also showing me that I'm using currently the x64 64-bit architecture for this thing. So that's really quick. Now, in this video, I'm not going to compare Dart by Python or C# or TypeScript or JavaScript with Java. No other language will be compared with this, because I know people who are focusing on Dart have their special purpose to solve this language, to get this language handy. So that's my responsibility to make this language handy to use. So no comparisons in here. So that being said, now we shall continue with the code editor. So for this, I will be using Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code will be easily configurable, and we also have some extensions by Google which can be implemented in Visual Studio Code, so that you have the most required tech stack to work in this thing. And yeah, if you grab the entire knowledge of Dart, whatever will be there, the fundamentals thing in this video course, then you are prepared to jump in for Flutter course. And that Flutter course will soon be coming on my channel, so stay tuned and please subscribe. So let's quickly fire up our VS Code in here, and for this purpose I will be using VS Code thing. Let's open up a new window. Let's quickly do a bit of configuration and I will be back soon. Now, when we are on this page, I would recommend you to open up your VS Code, and in that VS Code, you should then probably go for this extension step, and in here you should write Dart. Just simply write Dart. And then the first one you need to do this pre-release. It's from dartcode.org. And this is the main official extension which you need to do it. So please do this thing in here. And the features is automation, then you have some commands and also code completions and everything you will get in this. Okay, so for now this one package will be really enough for us. Another one would be prettier. So we want to just format a code, so prettier would be really good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a folder, and in there I then want to create a new directory, actually a real directory where I can demonstrate how it works. And in the new folder I'm going to do it something like Dart. And in here let's select this folder, and now my VS Code is configured to take in some Dart code, so really spice. So now coming up with this, if you just stick around, you will first of all be able to see how you create a Dart file. So if you click on this icon, then you can create something like main dot Dart. So you need to write Dart for Dart extension, and once you have you have correctly written down Dart, then you can see this icon. So that means everything is correct, and now we can really write some good Dart code. So the first thing would be comments, how to write a good comment or how to write your first hello world in Dart. So for that, it's really straightforward that you use an inbuilt function which is a print function, and in this print function you can do hello world just like this. So right like this you can do it, but if you see that we have some problems. Okay, we have some problems, but the thing is, first of all, without executing anything into this real world, we need to understand that whatever you see in here, this function is really handy. So first of all, if you have ever in your colleges, in your school, learned C or C++, you might know the famous main method in Dart, something like this. Now the main method always takes care that whenever this is a main file and this file needs to execute from this main. So this main actually was like a bootstrap thing that whenever this file is compiled, whenever this file will come into action, the main is the main thing to be run first. So if in this main I do print, I write print, so oops, if I could spell this thing correct, I can do hello world just like this. So this is one of the Dart code which is totally fine, and if you click on run, you can see that the output is hello world. So this is really interesting. So for this, if till now, if you are following me, just some claps for you that you have successfully written your first Dart code. Perfect. Now, what is this main? Why this main is known as a function or a method? This all things we'll discuss in great future, but right now you should understand that you are able to print something, okay, to the console. Now, if you want to write some comments in Dart, number one is comments. You can do 2 forward slashes, and you can do this as my first statement in Dart. So comments are those part of the code which never get executed. These comments are ignored. These statements are ignored by the compiler. So these comments are just for some representation or some callback purposes for the developer itself. Like the developer, whenever wants to mark something, want to explain something, wants to remind something, at that time we write these comments. So these are non-executable part of the code, which are only meant for some reading purposes. Like for example, I can write down the usage of this feature, what I've done right now. So like this, you do a single line comment. If you want to come up and do some multi-line comments, those are also easy to do. You just need to something like this, and now you can write down multi-line comments. So for example, this is a multiple line comment example. I hope this is also understandable by you while we are doing like this. So single line and the multi-line comments. Okay, so this is how you do it. So this was enough about how you write your first print statement and how you use comments in Dart. Thank you very much, guys, and I will now see you in the next section of this course. So let's get started with that. Welcome back, and now today we are going to understand about variables, the most important thing in any of the programming languages, and that's the variable. So if I come up here, I can do something like variable.dart or variables.dart, and let's understand what are variables. So variable is nothing but a temporary container. It's a temporary container to grab your data, perform some operations, and then just do that job done. So what do you mean by temporary variable? So if I show you one example, let's see one example. For example, I do a main block just like this. And now suppose I want to store my YouTube channel's name. So how I can do it? Let's do it something like this. Channel name is equals to create finders. Okay, so this channel name is right now a variable. How? Because this variable, if you understand anything which is before this assignment, this equals operator is considered to be a variable, and anything which is after this assignment is the real value, what you are going to store in that variable. Understand? Okay, so the entire data which is in strings is known as a string value. Let me write a comment. This is known as a string value. And in Dart, because it supports types, it's a strongly typed language. That's why you need to make it understand what kind of variable you are providing it. So you need to tell the type of the data which is going inside this thing. Okay. So string type of variable channel name is equal to this. What happens if you declare it as a string but you are trying to input it a number? Immediately you will get some error. A value of type int can't be assigned to a variable of type string. Try changing the type of the variable or casting the right hand side to a string. What all big terms means, do not worry, I will explain you one by one. But right now consider this, that this is a variable, and now you can easily print this variable's value, and you shall also put this exclamation, which means in Dart that this is the end of my statement. No more code will be there after this statement. This is an indicator that yeah, I'm towards the end of my expression. So if I click on run, you can see create finders for printed. Now somebody can say, okay, this is fine, but in the channel name I want to now update few more information. So how I can update my variable? It's simple. You can just use your variable. You can come to the next line, and then you can again give a updated value. For example, create finders by Siddhartha Verma. It's that simple. So now if you click on run, you can see that it grabbed the updated value, but here's a catch. Everything in programming is based on time. So that means whatever value you get always is the updated value. That means the present value. You can always walk back into the time to see the all stage values. So here what I'm doing. Before updating the value, I'm printing the value. After updating the value, I'm printing the value. So if I click on run, you can see that two stages are there right now. So this is how we use variable. Now coming to the next part, variables can be of different nature. Why different nature? First of all, you need to understand that any variable can contain different values. What different values? For example, there can be a value of type string. If you want to type some age or contact, that can be of type integer. If you want to give some decimal values, then it can be a float, 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 or double. Just there are some limits where float exceeds, and that exceed limit is considered to be a double. We'll see some examples. Then there is some Boolean values, true or false. Okay, so true and false are some Boolean values. So if I talk about very basic things, so there are some primitive values and non-primitive values. Primitive values, string, integer, float, double, Boolean, everything. But non-primitive objects, arrays, maps, sets, all those things, right? So there are so many things in here. So if we see some examples, a few more examples. For string, I've given you this example, okay, strings. For integer, you can do something like int my age is equal to 26, for example, and then you can print my age. To be precise, this is int. Now if you write some, for example, if you write some marks into the float, so I will take it as double, for example, my marks is equal to, for example, 390 dot something like this, and I can also print this value. So printing this value is really simple. Just you can pass your variable in here, and this is all we got. Now for example, for Boolean, you can do something like bool, and then after writing that value like something like bool, now you need to tell something like is logged in is equal to, and you can now use the Boolean value, and you can again print that value. That's simple. You can print those values, and if you click on play button, if you save this file, click on the play button, you get all of those values. So that's also really simple. So this is how we use normally the variables in with the primitive nature. So this was pretty much it regarding this video. In the next part of the video, we are going to talk regarding a very important keyword in Dart, which is known as a dynamic keyword. So that was pretty much it from me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next session. So hi and welcome back. So previously we have seen how we can use the normal primitive nature data in by using our variables in Dart. Now we will be focusing on the dynamic keyword. What is dynamic keyword and how that is being utilized, and why should we use that in Dart? So for example, I have a main function like this, and now I want a variable where I do not know the value at present, but I know in future the value type, the data type can change. So at that time, you need to first of all write a variable. For example, my variable name is let's say it's a contact, and right now the contact is, for example, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, this is my contact. Now we know that from the previous learning that if you want to write some contact, if you want to write some value into a variable, you can utilize that variable like this, and now it's simple. So if I print this file, nothing changes. But now my condition is that this variable in future I want to store some string value to it. So for example, something like this, when or need to store something like this. But right now in this situation, this can't happen. Why? Because this is strongly typed. So if it's an int, you are forced to always provide it an int value. So how you can solve the value in here? There's where our dynamic thing comes into picture. So if you place dynamic, now Dart understand that this variable is not bound to just one of the categories or one of the data type. It is dynamic in nature. That means at runtime, okay, I will take this value, but in future, if the logic is asking is respecting to update its value from an integer to string, I won't be restricted with that thing. I can easily replace the value. So in here, if you see, it's a dynamic type, and in here it's holding the string type. And if I run this program, there is no problem at all. Okay, so for now, I want you to just focus on how we have used dynamic in here. It's as simple as that. Okay, but when we will be touching the entire Flutter course, at that time these things will make more sense. But right now, you should be familiar that with this all primitive natures, you also have something known as a dynamic. Okay. Now in the next session, we are going to study about final and const keyword in Dart. So stay tuned and please like the video. It takes a lot of courage and hard work to deliver such contents. Thank you, and I will see you in the next session. So hi there and welcome back. Now with all of this learning, we are moving towards a term which is known as final Dart. So what is final in Dart? Suppose you are creating some variable, okay, suppose you are creating some variable and the value what you entered for the very first time, you need that value to be final. That means no changes, no modification to that value can be accepted in the runtime. Okay, in the runtime, no changes can be accepted. But you can argue that a final and the const keyword does the same thing. Okay, but do remember, const always and always, the biggest difference between the final and the const keyword is that const always and always needs the value before compile time. Final doesn't have any restriction like that. For const, you need the value, the compiler needs the value before compiling it. Okay, let's take an example. Suppose I write the main block again. And in here, I would also like to introduce that whenever you do not return anything from the function, you should write void. Good. Now in here, I do final my name. And because it's not going to change, that's why this is logical for me to write a final keyword in here. And now I can print my name. Let's save this thing. Let's print. You can see Siddhartha Verma, but if I want to do something again, Siddhartha Verma, now you can see that because it's of final nature, you will get some error where it says can't assign to the final variable my name. You cannot reassign any values. It's final. That means it's been logged. You cannot change that value now. But on the other hand, if we look a value for const my name or my name too, Siddhartha Verma, if I use it in here, my name too. Let me just grab this variable and place it something like this. Let's click on the play button. You see that it's absolutely fine. And that's what I'm telling you. There won't be any visual change while using a final or a const keyword. That depends on you. If you want to have that control into your programming, that yeah, I still have that freedom that before compilation, I can use this value, like before compilation, that's possible. But the main difference I can also show you in one more area. For example, I write const age. And if you see right now, you can't do like this, something like this. at the declaration moment, you need to provide the value for constant. So for example, like this. But if I say something like final my age, at that moment you can declare the variable, but in the later moments you can again define the value. So that's available with the final keyword. That's why I told you that the choice of whether you want to find the const more useful for your purpose, or if you want to go with the final, that depends on you. But that's my promise that within some projects or within a Flutter course, I will be making you clear when to use what kind of keywords, either const or either final. That we will discuss. But I hope you have understood the usage of fun and the const in here. Now, one of the most important thing which is really exciting in Dart that you can perform is grabbing the input from the user and then act accordingly. That's really interesting. How you can do it, let's see. So read inputs from user.dart. Let's quickly grab a void main and then in here now I have to do something in Dart. So now what we can really do is we need some help from Dart in order to fulfill this condition. Why? Because Dart programming language provides you some features, and those features are not available right now, but we need to call some guest in here, and those guests will help us to fulfill our needs. So we need a function, a pre-built function, which can help us to really use it, provide some inputs, provide some data, and then that can help us to achieve our goals. So you need to write some syntax like this: import dart IO. That means that we want to import Dart input output functionalities, and from there we need to grab some function, and that's, for example, I can say print enter your profession. Okay, we give some space, enter your profession, and now we need a inbuilt function which can help us to grab inputs from the user. So for that, what I can do is I can do string profession is equals stdin dot read line sync. You need to use this function. Now this function, if you see in here, a value of type string comma cannot be assigned to a variable of type string. Try changing the variable of type of the variable, casting the right hand to string option. The value in here is optional. That means it can be provided. So it's not 100% sure that the value will be a string. So in that case, let's do it something like this. Now it's absolutely fine. And now what I will do, I will just do some print profession like this. Let's print this thing, and now you can write your value profession. Let's say okay, not in the output. We need to run this something like this file. If you go for the terminal, you need to do something like dart read line dart, something like this, and the profession is software developer. And if you hit enter, it's absolutely fine. Now we need to format the string a bit to look something great. Okay, so how we can concatenate data with this, let me just show you. We can say your profession is, and you need to type dollar in front of your variable, and now we can really get it all done. So if I again type and I do SD, You can say your profession is SD. So like this, dynamically you can input the values in Dart dynamically. Okay, so like this, everything can be done in this. Now, if you want to grab some integer values, like if you want to grab the contact number, so how can we grab a integer value, because this is a string. So in order to get the integer value, you need to do the same thing and then write new variable and then std in dot read line. But the thing is, this read byte, read line like this read line sync gives you a string output. That's why what we are going to do is we can do a typecasting and we can do int.parse. We can call the int.parse function, and this will then parse the data. Okay, this entire output of this would be passed, and we need to tell this parse function, because if you see in the parse, it accepts some string source, and if you see the type, the string type, it's confirmed. You do not see any question mark in between. So in order to tell this parse function, yes, yeah, I'm going to get some value, you need to put exclamation in front of this. And now if I now want to print contact, I can do your contact is let's do something like this, and let's try to print the values. Profession, software development, 87654321 and 9. Hit enter. You see the real values. So this is how you can grab inputs from user. This is how you can grab some inputs from the user. Now, just one last thing what I want to show you. We have already seen if we want to send some output to console, we use the print method. But there is also one more thing what we can use, that's the std out. So std out dot write. So this function also helps you to provide some feedback to the console. For example, end of program. And something like this. Cool. And if I again provide some values, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, you can see the output. So choice is yours, either stdout.write or print. Both will work. But my personal choice is always to write stdout. Okay. There's one more thing, that whenever you are using the print statement and you want to output something, it automatically brings the cursor, the CMD cursor, to the next line. But the std out thing doesn't brings the cursor to the next line. If that matters to you while asking some questions in your CMD, then do prefer to use stdout.write. That will be really cool to use. Now in the next video, we will be checking out some numbers configurations in Dart. How to use the number correctly. We'll use that thing. So that was pretty much it regarding this session. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next session of this course. So hi there and welcome back. So now we are going to check out some functions, some methods in numbers. So I can say numbers.dart. Let's quickly go to void main block like this, and then in here what we are going to do is, let's introduce some number. Let it be double, and I say something like ranking, and to the ranking let's give 44.54, and now let's print ranking. And if you put a dot, you see that we have so many input methods, but in this I will be using first of all the absolute. So if we talk about the absolute, it gives that the absolute value of this number. The absolute value is the value itself if the value is non-negative, and the non-negative if the value is negative. Integers overflow may cause the result of minus value to stay negative. So if I now try to run this file, I receive the output. Let's quickly close this terminal, run this file again. Let's check out the code, run. Oops, my bad. Dot numbers dot dart, and you can see that it's fine. And if you give it a negative value, then also it's fine. Now, if I want to suppose seal this value, so I can use the seal method, and if you see, it's been sealed down. Okay, if I remove the negative number from here, I can try to print, it's 45 now. Okay, that's perfect. Another thing what we can use in here is if you again copy this entire thing and try to replicate to the next line, if we see the float method, it will float the value 44. So that's also pretty much fine. If we want to check out more things, so ranking dot is nan, you can check if it's a nan. Okay. So if I do something like this, so it's false, but if I do something like this, I know that there will be some problems, but it's fine. Like if I do it something like dynamic, and now I place the value in something like this, and now I do. You see that we get some problem like, okay, string has no instance to is none, but let me show you one workable example where you can seriously write something like nan. Yeah, something like this. So double dot nan, and in here we see that we still have problem because you see that it prints nan, but the main problem is the rest of the functions won't allow this nan value. So this is what it is. So we will stay with the normal conditions for now, which is fine. And the one of the things what you can use and which should be pretty much good is that you can check is finite, is infinite, is negative. So if I want to check something that is it a negative number, if I want to compare something like that, then I receive false. So these are few of the things what we almost every time try to do in this. Okay, there is seal to double compare. We also have round function, so you can round this function. So if it's 55, let's say it's 56, then it will be round to 44.6, 44.5. Sorry, yeah, 45. Correct. So rounding is also there, which is fine. Let's see if we have some other use cases like the min-max thing. No, that's a different story. Yeah, you can convert it to string, to integer. Okay, let me just show you the string output for this, because we often want a number to be converted to string, and it's been converted to string. So this was everything about a number in Dart. Now we shall look around for some integer values as well, like we shall see how integers also work in Dart. Okay, so now and that's coming to the next session. So thanks for watching this session. I will see you in the next session of this only and only Dart basic foundational course. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one. So let's get started with our strings. So if I do something like strings dot dart, let's write a main block just like this, and in here I can use a variable name, for example name, and let me write out my name like this. Now if you see name dot, you have so many things to do. For example, let's do something like name dot replace. Okay, replace all, and we need to replace like from what you want to replace to what. So from means that from dd I want to do something like capital dd. So if we can run this function, let's run this thing. We need to now run the strings. You can see that it's now replaced my small double D situation. So replace all will replace your any occurrence what you want. Now another thing is that in your name you can check if it's empty. You can also check for the length. So that's interesting. You need to always check for length. So it's 10, which is fine, which is good. We can again check for more things in a string. Count unit add compare to contains. We can check if something contains something. So for example, does it contains AR? We can check. Let's run this code. True. Does it contains RA? And that will be false. So that's a false situation. So the contains thing is also really beneficial into your day-to-day life. So with that, we also come across more functionalities where we can check if some particular string ends with HA. In my case, yes. So if I again run this thing, true. But if I want to check, does it ends with HA with a white space? So now this will be false because we do not have any white space. But if I put some white space, now it's fine. Okay. Now with the name, you can also check the last index of any word. You can pad them, you can replace, you can split them, and you need to tell from where you want to split. For example, I want to split from dd. Okay, so if I now split the situation, you can see that it's been now separated into elements in a list, and right now we haven't touched the list. That's why I won't be going forward with list currently in Dart. So there are more functionalities to Dart, okay, but the common things what we use is length, contains, replace, ends with, or split. So that was pretty much it regarding the strings in Dart. Now in the next one we will be looking out for lists, that means the arrays, the non-primitive data types in Dart. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next session of this course. So now we definitely daily in our jobs, in our work, in our profession, we daily use list a lot, array, object a lot of times in programming language. So let's take a quick example of a list. So I do something like list dot dart, and let's take a sweet example of cars. So I am now gonna create a list which is cars, and let's take it a where declaration for now, and now this is a list. And if you hover over the cars, okay, currently it's dynamic, but we do not want it dynamic, so we will make it look like a string. And now we can write the value, for example BMW, Audi, and another one could be Volkswagen. Okay, so these are my examples what I will be cooking for today, and now I can simply write these cars like this. Oops. Yeah. And now if I try to run this thing, Dart, I generate the list. And with this, I can now also check. I can also now check for the length of this. So the length will help me to tell the length of this car array. So it's a 3. You can see it's a 3. I can do something like print length of car list. Something like this would be beneficial to us. Yep. So you can see length of the car list is 3. Okay. So there are more things what you can do actually because of these multiple lines. I will still be using print. But in between, I've also showed you where to use the std out and where to use the print statements. With this, I can also do something like cars.add method. You can add a single item. So for example, I want to add Hyundai to this brand, HYUNDAI. Okay, you cannot input multiple elements. You always input single elements. If you want to input multiple elements, at that time you use add all. So for example, I use Ford, I use Toyota, I use Honda. But the main catch is in here you need to provide entire list if you want to provide something like this. And with that, I will again print all of these things again in order to check how it goes. So in here, if you see previously it was all about 3 cars with 3 length, and then everything got into the place, and now it consists of 7 elements, in total 7 cars into this. So I hope this is also really interesting to you. Now you can also use the insert method. That means car dot insert, and now in insert it takes the index like from where you want to insert it. For example, in index 1, that means position 2, I want to insert Kia as a brand. And now if I again check the cars, what will happen? Technically, Audi should get replaced. And now if you see, Audi's position got replaced by Kia, and now we see Audi shifted to the next length. Okay, so the position was shifted, and in between the place, the first index, the index number 1 was given to Kia. So that's the insert thing. And the same way, in the similar fashion, you can also use insert all. Insert all. For example, in 2, I want to insert, for example, Maruti and then Lotus. And now if I again try to print my cars, let's print my cars. You can see that both of the options were added and Audi was shifted to even more further spaces. So this is how we have done something like this. Okay, so this is the basic structure of how you can use a list. Although there are more functions like is empty, you can check for empty, you can check for nulls, you can check for singles, you can cast it to map, but right now we haven't learned about map, so we won't be using it. Yeah, you can obviously clear this thing, and let me just show you. If you clear everything, your list will then have length as 0 and it will be completely as new. So you can see that the list is now empty. So this was pretty much it regarding Dart list. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next session of this course. Thank you. Now, this is a advanced bonus round where in the Dart list we are checking out that same as in JavaScript. If you're familiar with JavaScript or TypeScript, on any list you can use this for each method and then supply, and each for each method, you get the element and then you can print an element. If we quickly have a look, you can see that I was able to loop through all the elements. So this is how you can use for each for Dart list. Okay, particular element, each iterated element you get in here. Okay, and then you print over here, or whatever logic you want to perform that will be carried out in this place. Okay. Now moving towards to the next topic, that's the sets.dart. Now how we can perform another data structure that is of non-primitive nature, that is known as sets. So in here what I'm going to do is, if I have a main block in here, in this main block you can do, like, for example, set of strings, for example. And now in here I can have brands. Now, one important thing about set is set always and always will consist of unique elements. You cannot enter duplicate elements in a set. For example, if I want to enter, for example, Puma, and then I want to add, suppose, aeroplane or arrow, for example, this is a set. And if I now want to print my set brands, sorry, yeah, we can do it simply like this. So if I now try to print this thing, it's simply as Dart, and then I need sets, for example, and you see that I easily have my set. What happens if you try to put some duplicate records, for example, something like this? Now here you will get some query lines that two elements in a set literally shouldn't be equal, change or remove the duplicate elements. But still we go on with this statement, you see that the duplicate versions were removed. That's why whenever you are dealing with some uniqueness, you should do something like this. So in order to add elements to a set, it's really easy. You can do add, the same as the list one. You can do add, and in the add you can give something like RD, okay, or you can go with more, suppose add, and I can also go with, suppose, Apple. So this is also possible. So you can do all this stuff. Okay, you can do all this stuff. Now if I again try to print, you can see that it's all well inserted. Okay. Now what I can also do is brands.addAll will add everything. I can cast the set, and what does this casting helps you to do? It basically will help you to cast any of the element to different data types. We will come to this later, but you can check if it contains everything, the differences between two sets. For every element you can check, you can expand this. There are so many things, or you can also do for each. And now the for each is exactly the same way. You get a normal brand, each brand, and then let's try to print something in this brand. So for now I will do something like brand name is, and now with this I can input my brand. So this is the for each loop method for this one. So if I can do something like this, you can say brand name is Puma, brand name is Arrow, brand name is Audi, brand name is Apple. That's also perfect. Now with this, you can also do something like brands dot contains, and you can check if a particular element is there. So if I try to input Apple, let's see if Apple is in there. So if I try to print this thing, you will see that I receive, okay, I never printed this output. Let's print my output, and I will get true. But what happens if you play with some casing? At that time, you would receive false. Okay, so this is also possible, that you need to if you are not sure, what you want to do, you have different areas where you can do either do one thing. You need to compare all the elements. For example, I can do something like brands dot for each, for each brand, you can do brand dot to uppercase. You can convert them to uppercase, and then let's try to print brands and see if they were converted to uppercase thing. Let's comment this line and let's check. Now if you see, nothing was converted. Why? Because this for each, okay, this for each itself returns something. So if you want to assign that something to some data, we can do something like list of, that it's list of string, and I can do list of brands is equal to something like this. But if you see, for each is a void kind of nature, so this can't be done. But what you can do is something like, you can do something like set of type string, and I do list of brands, and I do something like this. Now what you can do is, instead of doing something like this, you can do list of brands dot add. Okay, so list of brands dot add. And for initials, I can do that. This is a blank set. Okay, for initials, we can do that. This is a brand set. And now you can check for list of brands instead of the normal one. So if now I try to print this, you can see that all of my brands are now in uppercase. And now if you want to compare any of your identities, you can do list of brands dot contains this dot to uppercase, something like this. So if now I try to do it, it will yield true. So these are sets. Again, you can also remove. If you do not want something, you can do list of brands dot remove, and you can then remove a particular value. For example, I do not want Audi, so I can remove Audi. And now if I again trying to print my list of brands, let's print this thing, I should then receive a non containing Audi set, which is absolutely fine. So for now, for uniqueness purposes, we'll keep our knowledge for the sets in here. But once we are ready for working with Dart, we are ready to work in Flutter, then we can furthermore explore more things. Right now, this much will be sufficient for us. Now moving towards another thing, we come across now more things, which is something like an enum. Now enums are very important in sets. So this is known as enumerated types, which you can call it as your user defined types. Like you can define constant values, you can define anything, whatever you want to define, you can define those values. For example, let's say for example, I want to create an enum. So in here I can do something like enum.dart, and let's take main block, and this time any enum into your program will be created outside the main block and will be utilized inside the main block. That should be really clear to you. Like enums, to use enums, you can always and always store them, you will always store them outside the main block. So I can do enum, and I can say something like words. So I'm trying to input some words, and the first word will be, suppose, welcome. The second word could be hello, and the third word could be bye, for example. Now if you hover over this enum, so this is a Dart enum, and now in here, for example, let's say I want to have a variable which says hello text, and in here I can do words dot, and I want to get for hello like this. And if you look to this variable, the type will be words. Okay, so that means you can put some type like this. Now if you try to print the hello text in here, and let's save this file. Let's try to use this file in here. You can see words.hello got printed. Words.hello got printed. So the thing you see in here, this hello indicates to this hello. Okay, so why do we get some enums? For example, let's say you are using some switch statements. So I do switch, and I do, for example, I say something like greeting, because this is a kind of a greeting. So we say that I need to switch something on greeting, and that something on greeting will be the first case where I check for words dot welcome. If that's the case, what I want to do, I want to simply print welcome to Create Finders. Okay, and then as the logic says, we can hit break. We can then check for again another case where I check words dot hello, and then I can simply print hello from Create Finders, something like this, Create Finders like this, and then again I can break. Otherwise, I can have another case which says words dot by, and I can then say by hope to see you soon. Message from Create Finders. And in the last I should say a default, and in the default, and yeah, for all the cases you should always break your statement, and in the last I should say print please choose an appropriate option. Okay, you need to choose one option. Just like this. So let's save this file, my enum file. Let's save this thing, and this is what it is now. So out of these things, now you need to choose something. You need to choose something which can better prescribe my understanding. So now if I try to print this file, you can see hello from Create Finders. Why? Because we stored hello. For example, we have stored welcome, words.welcome. Then at that time we will see welcome. And if we choose words.by, for example, this is from the users itself, then it will be bye, to see you soon. But for example, if you choose an XYZ, anything which is not mentioned into your situation, and this be a dynamic kind of nature, at that time, if I do something weird, it will say, please choose an appropriate option. So this is how you can deal with enums. I hope this example was really easy for you to understand. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next session of this course, where we'll discuss more about more features of Dart. Thank you. So hi there and welcome back. So in this session, we are going to understand the conditional statements in Dart. Yeah, one of the most important part in programming language, because everything starts with if and else in our lives. So let's quickly start with this. So this is a main block, and let's say that we have accepted some age, and the age in here is supposed 26, for example. Now to write something like, if the age is greater than 18, then do this, otherwise do that. That is always covered with if situation. So the syntax is something like if and else, something like this. And in the if, you give situation, something like, if age is greater than 18, then I am gonna print something like, hey, you are an adult. Okay, simple. And in the else situation, I can do something like print, please go home, catch you once you are an adult. I think this will work. So if I now try to print this file, hey, you are an adult. So these are my conditions. Okay. The same way you can also do something more interesting. For example, bool is logged in is equal to, for example, it's false. We can say if this is the case, and end is logged in is set to true. Okay. If this is the case, and this is set to true, then I do something like this. Else if, else if, else if, I'm having one more situation, and that situation is that, okay, the age is above 18 and end is logged in is set to false. Okay, at that time I can print, hey, your age is fine, but you need to log in order to use the app. Something like this. So if I now run this file, you can see that my if, else if, and else condition is working. So this is how in Dart you can use your if else condition, and later on we will see more and more complexities in if else condition, but simple use case is that like this you can use if else conditions in Dart. Now coming towards the next major part is our iteration, the loops. So for Dart loops, let's simply go on for loops.dart, and now let's check how we can do some looping in Dart. So let's do something like main, and let's create a list of integers where I have some marks, and I can now do suppose 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Now I want to iterate through these marks so that I can print them. So first of all, the most traditional way is of using for loop, and the syntax for using the for loop is you need this for keyword, then some parentheses, and then the scope of your code. So in your for loop, it consists of three parts. Number one, let's write those parts in here. The first part is always an initializer. Which means from where should I start. The second part of the for loop will be condition. That means till which stop should I iterate. And the last is action, which is either increment or decrement. So in this situation, what you can do, after every loop, what action should I perform? Okay, so with this we can do something like, for example, int step is equal to, and the step we starts with 0. Why? Because if you know that any of the list in any programming language, the array, the list always starts with index 0. And if we want to start printing all the elements of an array, then you should start with index 0. So that's what I'm doing in here. Then I want my step should be less than length of my marks. So length of my marks, why? Because if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there are 5 elements in this array. But if I start counting those elements, 5 are there, but they start with 0, then on 1, then on 2, then on 3, and then on 4. So the length is 5, but my last step would be 4. So 4 is less than 5, which is fine, and that's why it will start printing my values. And after each successful iteration, I want my step to increment by 1, and to increment we do plus plus. Now all we need to do is write a print statement in where we can say the step count is, and we can print the count, the current step, and the current step is a step, and the value is, and we can print the value. And how we can print the value? We need the marks dot and at what index we need the value at this step. So that means we are watching on each successful index. That means when the step is 0, it will print marks on 0 is 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50. Let's simply print this. And now, oh sorry, oops, we need to print the loops file. So that's my loops file. And now you can see the step count is 0 and the value is 10. The step count is 1 and the value is 20. The step count is 2 and the value is 30. The step count is 3 and the value is 40. And the step count is 4 and the value is 50. Now, although in a Dart project, we have loops for loop, we have for each, we have while loop, we have do loop. But in most of the scenarios, you will be using the for each loop or the for loop, and that's most understandable. If you still want to learn how we can perform while loops and do while loops, do mention them in the comment section below, and we'll make that thing appear for this video. So that was pretty much it regarding this video. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next session of this course. So hi and welcome back. So this is one of the most important and the most demanded topic of any programming language, and that's the object-oriented programming. Yeah, Dart supports it doesn't support not only, but it's heavily dependent on object-oriented programming. So if you have ever seen a Flutter code example on internet, or if you have seen how Dart really performs on any documentation, you might know that it heavily depends on classes. How we can define those classes? Let's see. It's also a kind of a data structure, but in that you can encapsulate both the variables and the functions. Let's start. For example, let's say I want to create a normal car. So for car, you will do something like class, and then you need to give a name. I give it car model or car factory, suppose. And this factory is responsible for creating a car. So a string variable I can give. And before that, I need to explain you two more things, that in a class, you give two things: member variables and member functions. These are the two initial things what we will give to this class. For example, I give it string car name, and this value will be available after some time. But for now, I know that this is going to be this value is going to be provided after some time. That's why whenever you are sure that okay, after some time I'm going to receive this value, you can put a late in front of that variable name. Another thing is late string car color. Okay, I can do late string car type, late string or brand, late int car price. Okay, so late string car model, and final is late string car transmission, and the final one will be bool, late bool is in stock. So these properties define my class right now. These properties are responsible for defining my class, how my class will look like. So it will have a car name, it will have a car color, it will have a car type, it will have a car brand, it will have a price, it will have a model, it will have a transmission, and it will judge whether it's in stock. Now with this we can create a car. How? Let's see. And before that, let's give it a function. Let's give it a method which will return a string, and I can say get car details. Okay, this function is responsible for delivering the car details. So what I can do right now is I can prepare such statement, and the statement will be string details is equal to, and now I can prepare some statements, and then this statement will be returned. So return details, and the statement for this would be suppose car name with color, car color, and type, and body type, car type, costing, car price, with transmission, was manufactured by brand and the model was named as car model. So this is my statement whenever I want to use it. Okay, so now in order for you to create a car factory, a car new name, you can do something like a main block in here, and in the main you can do something like a car type of a car factory, and I want to create my car 1, and this will be equal to car factory, something like this. Now once this thing is done, you can provide the values for car factory. So car brand, suppose it's BMW, car 1 dot car color, and the color is suppose white, car 1 dot car model, model is suppose M5, car 1 dot car name is suppose BMW M5 2024 edition. This is my car name, car 1 dot price, suppose the price is 90 lakhs, car 1 dot transmission, suppose this is diesel, diesel. Car1 dot is in stock, and we can say that yeah, it's in stock. And car1 dot, I think we have covered most of the story. Okay, we have covered yeah, car1 dot type, and the car type is suppose sedan. And now if you want to check all the values for this, we can utilize our get car details function, and this should then store some values in here. So suppose car1 details is equal to inside this, and now I can print my details, and this will be a really nice one. Print car1 details. Let's save this file, open it in here. Oops. And now you can see the details. BMW M5 2024 edition with color white and body type sedan costing 90 lakhs with transmission diesel was manufactured by brand BMW, and the model name was named as M5. So this is how really and beautifully we can utilize a class structure. So if you see in here, this class consists of the entire central logic for that business. Entire central logic. Now in any class you can always add any kind of calculations, any business logic, anything what you want to encapsulate inside one class. But the motto of the class should be focused on a specific business. For example, the motto of this class was specifically based on creating a car or detailing a car. Okay, so this is how we have done this thing. In the next session, we will be seeing a much more simpler way of providing those values to the class. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next session of this course. So hi and welcome back. So another way of writing this class would be to use it with constructor. So for that, I will write something like constructor dot, and I will copy the same example in here, but this time we'll give these values using a constructor. How can you define the same constructor? So constructor is nothing but a constructor is a bootstrap initializer of that class that is responsible whenever a class is initiated for the first time. That constructor is automatically evoked, and it will ask you to grab some values, and using that values it will transform the entire class. Let's see how that's done. So that follows syntax where you need to use the exact name of the class, just as in Java, and with this you need to then write it something like this. Now in here, what you can do, you can utilize this class as you need to provide some parameters to this class. Okay, and those parameters, and now those parameters needs to be inserted in here. For example, I can say give me something known as name, car name. Give me something known as a color. Give me something known as a type. Then give me something known as a brand. Sorry. Then please give me something known as a price, and the price is of int nature, so I have a price. Then I expect you to give me a model. I also expect you to give me a transmission. And finally, I expect you to give me in stock situation. Is in stock. Okay, so this is my class. Now once I receive such information, I can do this dot car name. I need to assign those values, whatever values I receive from the constructor, from the user input, I need to assign them to these variables so that these variables can later be utilized inside any functions or any usage inside the class. So this dot class name will always be equal to this name, like this dot car color will be equal to my color, whatever is given from up. This dot car type will be equal to the type what I get from above. This dot car brand will be equal to the brand. This dot car price will be equal to the price. This dot car model will be equal to the model. This dot car transmission is going to be transmission, and then this dot is in stock information will be from is in stock information. So now this is done. Now once this is done, you will see that our class is ready, but in here it starts to complain that 8 position arguments expected by car factory new, but 0 were given. So how you can provide such value? You can start giving it such value like this. Now if I just hover over this, it needs all the value. So in order to give some values, you need to then assign those values in here. So my name is if you see in here, so now first value needs to be the name. So this was my car name, what I was trying to get. So this is done. Now secondly, it needs a color. So this was my color information which I will be giving it in here. Then it's need the type. The type was sedan for this car, I think. And then once the type is also in here, I need to give the brand and the price. So the brand for this was BMW, so let's give it a BMW, and the price was 90 lakhs, so let's give it a 90 lakh value. And then the model transmission in stock, so model was M5, let's give this a model in here. And then it was all about the transmission and in stock. So the transmission was diesel transmission and in stock was set to true. So if we can now save this and we can now remove all this heavy loading part, now the situation remains same. And now if you try to do something like dot and we do constructor, you see that the values are still the same, but this is now a much more lighter version as compared to our previous example, where each and individual value we were giving something like this. We were accessing the object of the class, and then individually we were assigning those values to each respective property. So either this way or either this way, both are valid, but a much more professional way you will find will be this one. This one is a more professional way of utilizing your classes. Now one thing to remember in here is that you can also use a new keyword in order to create a class, but in the newer versions of Dart, you do not need to write this new keyword in order to create a class. Okay, you do not need to use a new keyword in order to create a new constructor for that class. That's absolutely valid. Without new keyword also you can create a class. So that's much more leaner and a nicer version of creating a class. So this was pretty much it regarding this video. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next session of this course. Thank you. So now one of the most important aspects which we have in Dart is date time. You will see 100% of the applications using date, and mostly I prefer managing the date on backend. So how you can achieve that thing, let's see. So I write date time dot date time dot, and let's have a main block, quickly a main block. And within this main block, now I will be doing something like where now or today is equals date time this module dot now, and now we can easily print today. If you're really interested in what will be the date type for today, and yeah, I want this to be final because this is not gonna change, right? So if we can clear everything, and then we can go for date time. You can see that it printed out to me the date with the time and the milliseconds thing. So this is a normal use case of how you can do a date time. Now, another thing would be if you want something to be specific for the year. For example, year is equal to date time. And when you call this constructor, if you pass in the day, like if you pass in the year, for example, 2023, 23. So this will then grab the date for 2023 and then it will start from the very initial start of the year. That means 12 o'clock with 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and everything is 0, and it's the new year. So this is how you can define with year. If you want to define it with year and month, you can do something like year and month. You can do something like date time, define in the year, define in the month, and that's it. Now, if you grab this thing and you try to print this thing, then you will have two as thing. And the same thing, if you want to start this thing, year, month, and date, then you can always pick up the date as well. So if I try to print the value in here, you see that it's 2nd Feb, date is 14 and the year is 2023. So that's also 100% possible in this. Now you can do much more things. For example, I need final timestamp, and you can also get a Unix timestamp for your date. So date dot timestamp, and now you will receive the timestamp. That means the date in 13 digits. Okay, the Unix. Okay, this was the timestamp, but my bad, it acted differently. But the thing is, there is a function where we can get the date time in terms of milliseconds. Okay, so that's possible. Like you can get the date in milliseconds as well. I will soon be adding those things, but uh, seriously, for getting started, this is fine. Okay, now one more thing what I need to show you is when you do date time dot, you can get n number of things. Okay, you can, for date time, you have many things. You have less than, you can compare. You have greater than, you can compare in those dates. You have the subtract, you have copy with, you have different scenarios. For example, I do it as today. Okay, this thing doesn't contain today. Date time dot, now you get it. April, August, all the months you get it from milliseconds since epoch. Okay, that means you need to go to the epoch and then you get to you need to give it some value. How you can do it? For that, let's fire up our web browser, and in the web browser, let's hit epoch. Now when you do the epoch, you can grab the timestamp, and let's say that the timestamp which I've grabbed is this one in milliseconds, this one. Let's copy this thing and we paste it in here. Now if we try to print something like this, you can see that it converted the thing from microseconds since epoch. What does it do? Constructs a new datetime instance with a given microseconds. If UTC is false, then the date is in the local time zone. The constructed datetime represents this plus microseconds in the given time zone. Okay, so in here by default the UTC part is false. So if you want to get the exact timings, what you need to do, you need to set something like is UTC to true. You need to set this value to true. Okay, so is UTC should be equal to true. My bad, it should be provided in here is UTC True. Oh, wait a minute. It accepts an integer and a boolean of is UTC. Okay. So I say that is UTC is true. Is UTC is true. So once I save this thing and now I try to run this thing, you can see that now it's fine. So I've given it is UTC to true. So like this, you can also convert whatever you want, like in date time. Again, this is for you to get started. And as soon as then we deal with Flutter, there are plenty and plenty of things what we can understand in the world of uh, Dart. Now, one more important concept what I need to talk about is interfaces. So I do something like interfaces.dart. For example, I'm creating a class person, and this person has no idea, like how it has no blueprint. This person class is confused. How should I create this person class? What to consider, what not to consider? All these things are missing in here. So in that place, I can create an interface. And how such an interface is created? You need a class. I say it as person interface, something like this. And in here, I can tell what it should do. For example, I want that it should at least have a name. And this is going to be late name. Okay. So this is my blueprint. So this class is nothing but I've created a blueprint, like how it should behave. Now, in order to tell this person that it should perfectly match with person interface, what I can do is I can do implements implements person interface. Now if you see in here, it says missing concrete implementation of getter interface person interface.name and setup. Try implementing the missing parameters or make the class abstract. You can click on quick fix and you can do create one, and now you have those overrides and you can do something like late. Now this is absolutely fine. For example, in future you come up here and you do late int age. I want the age, something like this. Now this will again complain and you can do again something like this. So this is how you create an interface. Okay, for example, if you have a function which returns me salary, so I can do something like late double salary, and I can do something like double get increment, and suppose I do it something like return salary times 12% of increment. Now this shows that you not have implemented this thing, so we can do something like this. Okay, we can do something like this, and because the salary is still not defined, I can do late something like this. So you see that get increment through unimplemented error. That means you need to somehow provide us the definition for this. So in the interface, it's written that, okay, there should be a method named something like this. And here it's something like you're overriding the definition of the function which was already implemented. And now it awaits for you to give your own specific information to this interface. So stepping into the Dart was that much. If you have the basics covered with this much of knowledge into Dart, then the intermediate step for Dart would be really good. Where if I try to tell you, where you will get to know about the types in Dart, the generators in Dart, then using I think await asynchronous programming with Dart, and then most things are towards the architectural implementation in Dart, like solving some problems and all of those things. But this course was specifically for making you step into the Dart within under 2 hours. And according to my promise, and based on the promise, I have already helped you in getting used to all the fundamentals which are required for you to step into Dart, make yourself comfortable, and then we can shift our focus towards Flutter or more advanced into Dart. If you like the video, please hit a like button on this and share it with all of your IT friends. Grab this course because this is absolutely free, and this course can help you to build your career in Flutter. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel, and I will see you in the next new course. Thank you.